Firebirds Coaches Show from Buffalo Wings and Rings, presented by Kara Whitesell from First Class Realty, and I'm joined now by Kara Whitesell. Kara, thanks so much for being up here and joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it. And your son, too?
Yes,
coming
Kendrick.
up here? Kendrick, how are you today? He's doing good. Good. Kara, let's talk for a second about the housing market right now. I know a lot of people worried about interest rates, a lot of different things like that. So kind of take us through, maybe if you're a prospective buyer or anything like that, what buyers can be aware of right now with interest rates and all of that.
Yeah, perfect question, because I know a lot of people are worried about it with the increase in interest rates. It's actually a pretty level market now, where just a few months ago it was a high seller's market, and now it's not quite a buyer's market yet, but it's somewhere in between. And even though interest rates are high, a lot of lenders have great loan products to remedy that. And there was actually a decrease in rates at the end of last week. So
really?
We're now a little bit under 7.
Okay.
So it's moving in a positive direction. But anyone that's worried about it have options like a 2-1 buy down, or ARMs are coming back. So you could do a 5-1 ARM, which would give you a lower interest rate for 5 years. And then it would go up in the 1, and you could always refinance if it significantly drops in that time frame. And so there's a lot of good options for buyers right now, and it's less competitive. So they're not having to pay $50,000 over list price, paying closer to list price, and maybe getting some seller concessions now where that was unheard of just a few months ago. So it's actually still a really good time to buy.
How many buyers do you see in the market right now? Do you see these open houses where you're constantly having 100 people walk through like it was maybe last year or the year before?
It's not quite that intense anymore, but you do still have activity in open houses. And like I said, maybe a few months ago you had 20 people wanting the same house. Now you might have 3 or 5 wanting the same house, so you don't have to go quite as high to get it. So it's really good.
Stop.
Hey.
Sure. Yeah. So what are maybe some of the things like maybe a first-time buyer might want to look for right now? I know somebody actually that is just looking at a house that's a first-time buyer. So what's something that they might be able to look for right now?
The market's really open to that. First-time buyers a couple months ago had to probably spend close to $250 for their first home, which was kind of nuts. But nowadays, you could still probably be in that 200-ish range for a first-time buyer, but you could still find something in maybe 180.
Okay. How's the market been around here in this area?
It's still really good. Homes are maybe staying on the market 3 to 7 days versus 4 hours.
How long was that where it was about 4 hours?
That was almost 2 years of that.
It's crazy.
It's kind of started with COVID and then went all the way into all of 2021.
That's crazy.
And then part of this year, yeah.
I lived in Northern Virginia to start COVID. I grew up in Northern Virginia, went to college here, stayed here. But in March of 2020, moved here full-time with my family, and our house got sold in Virginia, and then it didn't close, and it got resold in like 8 hours.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy how it all went down when everybody, the for sale signs everywhere and the open houses are just crazy how that market was. So that's calming down a little bit?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Okay. So now as you do you feel like everything's moving in the right direction? It sounded like that from what you said.
It is, because that was a little bizarre. Even people who have been in the business for 20-plus years, so they never saw a market like that before. So it was pretty intense. You had to be super competitive, and now it's just kind of leveling out to what you would consider a more normal market. But it is kind of something that you have to highlight to sellers now too, because they saw their neighbors selling for X dollar 2 months ago, and they want to sell at that price. And really since August to now, or even in October, there was an 8% decrease in overall sale price. So houses that might have sold for $270 are now selling at like $250.
Oh, okay.
Just in that short amount of time. So it's a conversation that you have to have with sellers when you're listing too, because it's not the same. We're not in the same market. And so we can't treat it and list it the same way.
Sure. Yeah, so you're starting to come back to reality a little bit from where it was a few months ago.
And you have to tell them that they can expect, buyers to actually do their home inspections and maybe get a defect notice where they might have to fix some things where that was kind of unheard of in previous markets. So, yeah.
So when you get onto Zillow and you play the Zillow game and you start seeing all the open houses everywhere and you start seeing the prices and everybody's freaking out back in May or June, maybe starting to calm down.
Yeah. And Zillow is not on the top of our list of things, like, because the buyer always, or the seller even, this estimate says, it's this. And
interesting. As somebody that's not fully, into that market, that's interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah, because
why is that?
Zestimate is usually grossly higher or lower than the actual market value. It's a lot of times not accurate. So
interesting.
So in that way, it's not something we love, because then people are like, well, the estimate says it's worth this, and it's like, well, that's not market value. And so getting over that hump sometimes. So
interesting. So that's a conversation you have to have with sellers, right?
Yep.
Interesting. Especially with the internet and everything else, and the way you can just go and look everything up as quickly as that. Just to finish this off here, Kara, is there anything else that maybe we haven't covered, anything that a buyer should know, that a seller should know right now, anything that we haven't touched on that maybe somebody that is in the housing market right now should know about?
Well, just put it in mind, because you brought up Zillow. For first-time buyers or any buyers that are new to the market, it's mindful to know that when you go on public sites like Zillow and Realtor.com and things like that, they're public sites, and when you click the request information or the request showing button, it actually gets pinged out to several realtors who have paid in to get those leads. And so you're going to get someone different. You're going to get a bunch of realtors to call you. And so the best thing to do is actually do your research, find a reputable realtor on your own, and then call them for the more information or for the showing, and never click the buttons.
Interesting.
Is that a good tip?
Kara, I appreciate that. Not that I'm exactly looking for a house right now,
but
you'd like to think that that's maybe down the line, like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Kara, I appreciate you being up here and joining me
my pleasure.
tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, and thanks for supporting the show all year long. It's been great. Appreciate it. We'll be back
You're welcome.
on the Firebirds show right after this.